Everybody. Thanks for joining us today for our final webinar of 2024. This one is Building Your Safety Committee to Last. And in this webinar, we're going to be outlining best practices and frameworks for making the most out of your safety committees. And that's regardless if you're new to the concept or if you've operated one for years. We're going to have something for everybody in here. Specifically, we're going to cover creating a mission statement or refining that if you already have one, outlining duties, responsibilities, and goals for the people that are on the committee, and how to structure your meetings. If you have any questions about that or struggling with that, we have a pretty detailed section here for going through those meeting structures as well. And then we'll also talk about tools available to enhance your operations and round out maybe things that are going well, and get to that at the end of our presentation today. So I'm joined by our presenter. It is the CSD Pool's own risk control consultant, Kyle Brown. He's been with us for about 3 years now, and before his arrival, he spent 5 years as a corporate safety and compliance coordinator, creating and implementing programs to reduce injuries and hazards in the workplace. He is well-versed in conducting facility inspections, developing company safety trainings, and specializing in regulatory compliance. A couple of housekeeping items real quick to get to. We are recording today's session, so if you have any technical issues or need to step away, you'll get a copy of the recording later today. It's also going to be on our website. We record and post all of our events on csdpool.org/events. And we will be making the files available that we talk about today in the files box above the chat box. We have the slide deck there for download, and then we also have sample mission statements and goals, as well as best practices and a startup guide for you as well, if you want to take a look at that at any time. But we'll be detailing that a little bit too. On top of that, I think the last thing to mention is the chat box. We're going to have a couple questions come up in today's presentation, and we want to keep this lively. We've got a couple people on the call. Already have a bunch of people chatting from all the districts around Colorado. So go ahead and when these questions come up, feel free to just type them in there. And if you have any questions too, that's a good place for them. We'll address them as we go through today. So with that, I'll turn it over to Kyle, and you can take it away. Kyle, thanks.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for the introduction, Alex, and thank you everybody for joining us today. So as we wrap up 2024, let's start thinking about our safety committees for 2025. That's part of this, and it also doesn't have to be a beginning of the year assignment. If you want to revamp, start a safety committee, you can do it at any time. And one thing I want you guys to keep in mind through this presentation as CSD Pool members, you have access to the loss control team to help you with questions about your safety committee, to help you build your safety committee. But enough of that. We'll get into much more details as we go through. So building our safety committee to last. Not only are we going to talk about what a safety committee is, what it does, but one of the really important things I think we're going to cover today is we're going to be talking about how a safety committee should look. We're going to talk about best practices. And we're going to talk about some of those traps that some safety committees get in that can really seem to hinder production or leave them stagnant and stale. And we're going to talk about utilizing some of those best practices to make sure that that doesn't happen to your safety committee. And if you see that coming, what to do. So before we even get into the presentation overview, there are 3 key takeaways I'm going to say at the beginning of the presentation and at the end. As a safety committee, the 3 main goals I want you to have, and this is going to apply to everything we'll talk about today, is you want to be visible as the safety committee, visible to your team. You want to be an example. You want to lead by an example. We don't want to say our safety committee member was not wearing his hard hat out in the plant, so I'm not going to. You want to be that example that everybody looks to. And lastly, you want to be active. Activity is very important in my opinion, and if I've ever been out to your district to have a safety consultation, to do a training, or even if you've just heard me speak at some of the different places I've been, is you can have all the plans you want to, but if you're not following them up with actions, there's no point to it. So we want to be visible, we want to be an example, and we want to be active as a safety committee. So keep those in mind as we go through. Next, our presentation overview. What are we going to be talking about today? So first, what is the purpose of a safety committee? And that is kind of a loaded question, and it'll be different for each one of you, but What we're really going to be talking about today is how you help define that for your district. Building and supporting safety committees. What does that look like? Next, the safety committee's agenda and goals. This is tying back into our being active. We need to have an agenda that we're actively working towards and goals that we're setting to achieve. Next, how to engage committee members and district staff. So that's one of my favorite slides I have on here today is make it fun. So I'm looking forward to talking about that. So first off, what is the safety committee? I'm going to start with the definition, then we'll ask our question. As Alex said, when we ask our questions, please just go ahead and type your answer into the chat box. So, what is the purpose of a safety committee? At its most simple form is to promote safety and health in your workplace. The whole goal of a safety committee is to get involvement from your team, from management, from field level employees, from everybody in between, so that they all have their input and they know that they're heard and they know that their opinions matter. Because one of the biggest things that a safety committee can do is be proactive. Yes, it's important to do instant investigations, but as a safety committee, you guys know the inner workings of your district. So being on a safety committee is you taking those potential hazards to yourselves, to the district, and discussing them and coming up with solutions before they're problems. And lastly is to create and nurture a safety culture. I feel like I would be doing you all a disservice today if I did not take the time to explain what a safety culture is. And instead of reading you a definition, I am going to just say it like this. A safety culture is basically everybody's outlook on safety, how much your team buys into safety. I'm guessing that a decent majority of the folks on the call today are part of a management team. They are part of leadership for the district. So, safety culture. If you get in a vehicle with somebody from your district and you don't wear a seatbelt as part of the leadership, is that employee going to feel the need to tell you the importance of wearing a seatbelt and why you should do it? Or are they going to say, well, management never wore a seatbelt. You can catch me never wearing a seatbelt again in a district vehicle. The first one, educating you about the importance of a seatbelt. That's an example of great safety culture. Poor safety culture would be, well, I'm just going to follow the status quo and not wear one again. So back to safety committees. Safety committee, we're really just there to promote health and safety with our district. So if you guys wouldn't mind just typing in a quick yes or no into the chat box, how many of you have safety committees? I'll give you a few seconds to go about this, and then we'll start getting into the details of building a safety committee and what we want some of the representation and membership to look like. Yes, seeing a lot of yes, that's great. And I will say for you guys who don't currently have a safety committee, even if you don't, it's completely okay. Because that's what these webinars are for, is learning the importance of them and also learning how to implement it. Because as with most things in the safety and health realm, it can be a very daunting task in the beginning. But luckily, you do have your friends at the CSD pool to help you guys out with building your safety committee. So, next slide. As we build a safety committee, I want you guys to think of it like planting a tree. This can be, we're going to use a fruit tree just so I can have some of the examples make a little more sense. All right. So, whenever you think about that, let's say you're starting it from a seedling. Whenever you plant a seed, you don't just set it on the ground and hope it'll happen or set it on your counter. No, you have to go through and you have to dig a hole. You have to make sure it's the right type of soil. You have to provide it with nutrients and water. So your first two steps there, planting the seed, watering the seed, and watching it grow, that's really the beginning of your safety committee. That's where we come up with what are the goals of our safety committee? What are our mission statements? What do we hope to achieve as a safety committee? And then the watering it, that comes to what resources are we going to give the safety committee? Who's going to be a part of it? What are the details? And those are some things we're going to go through in the next couple slides. But some things that I really get excited about whenever I'm talking about this is it's hard to think of harvesting the fruits. It's hard to think of the fulfillment of the goal of the safety committee when you're first getting started. But that's part of setting those goals, is to know what that goal is going to be. So think about, what do we want to do? What do we want to harvest as we are creating the safety committee? Because we're going to learn in a few slides that there are so many different things a safety committee can do. They can build safety manuals. They can research incident investigations. They can, look up different safety concerns presented from other team members. And those are all correct answers. But the question is, during that planting the seed and watering stage, what are you going to focus on as a safety committee? And as much as we like to think that we're going to do all those things, that's often not the reality. So you have to kind of do a bit of an assessment to see, where do we want to put most of our energy and effort. Next, we have to talk about pruning it. And this is often difficult to do internally, but you have to be able to look and say, we'll say, do a yearly evaluation of your safety committee. Are we stagnant? Are we achieving our goals? What could be working better? And that's where the pruning comes in. So you have an even better harvest the next year, the next round that you keep doing things. And more importantly is keep growing. We're going to talk about this towards the end, but one of the best suggestions I can give to a safety committee, whether it's fully functioning or you're just looking for a little bit of revamping, is start small, build momentum, and grow from there. All right, so on to the next slide. So one of the first things that we have to think about when we're thinking about a safety committee, of course, is who do we want to be involved in the safety committee? There are some different options here, and I'll explain this in more detail as we go. Is it going to be a management-led safety committee? I do know that there are some districts and they have a safety committee, or they call them safety teams, or it's just the management discussing the different concerns, safety concerns, the safety goals for the district. That's completely acceptable. The other question is, or is it going to be facilitated field level personnel? Is it going to be the people actually out there seeing most of the safety concerns, talking amongst themselves? While both of those are very acceptable, I have to say I always suggest a combination of both. Because what I have seen through my life with safety committees is, if you have a management team, they set goals, they can achieve them, but what they're often missing is that field level input, the actual safety concerns that the people doing the task day in and day out have. And if you have a safety committee that's just consistent of field personnel, then you have people with great ideas. They know what they're seeing that concerns them, but they don't really have the decision-making power to make those changes. So that's why it's good to have a combination of both. And whenever it does come to a combination of both, I always like to suggest always having slightly more field personnel than you do management, just so you're getting more of those ideas. And another time for another audience question. This is just for us to kind of gauge where we're at. If you do have a safety committee, who is on it? Just type 3 answers here. We will go management, field personnel, or both. And there's definitely some best practices I want to talk to you guys about getting people involved in the safety committee and things that I've seen some of these districts work. It seems like we've got a lot of both, a lot of management, plus a board member. That's one I've not seen, but that's great to have different levels of thought process as we go into this. So, some best practices I want to say. Again, we want to try to capture as much of the district as possible, because again, our whole goal as a safety committee is to improve health and safety in the district. And if we're excluding certain groups from that, then we're missing an entire piece of the puzzle. So with that being said, someone from each department, each shift, just depending on how it works. Basically, each type of work group you have, we want them to be represented if possible. It's always suggested to have at least one manager in your meeting. And when you're choosing people for the safety committee, you should be asking yourself, asking the team as you go through these questions. And I want to throw out some best practices too. Is the person familiar with the organization and your safety program? This is something I bring up too. You never really want to throw a new hire into a safety committee. You want to make sure that they're off any type of probationary period, just so they know the functionings of the district. Because chances are, if you take somebody who's fresh into the district, they may not know the answers, and they might spend more time asking questions instead of helping you guys solve them. Will they be able to express their ideas in a group setting? This is a big one too. Are they people who are extremely intelligent, have great ideas to improve safety, but maybe they're a little bit shy in talking? Which is completely okay, but maybe you want to think about that as well. Do they have time for it? This is a big one. I have seen plenty of safety committees. They start off really strong, and then summertime hits, and they're like, well, this is our busiest time of year. What do we do? So that's where the time comes into play. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about that in a few slides. And here is one too. Are they respected by their fellow employees? Are they somebody who influences the district? If they go out and they say, we're going to do this safety topic, are people going to scoff at them and walk away? Or do they command the respect of their peers? Those are the types of people that you want on your safety committee. Some other things that I like to talk about too is some other things to avoid. Is you don't want people who just seem like they're going to be on the safety committee to get out 2 hours of work. Because if you have somebody who is just doing it for that reason, chances are they're going to treat the safety committee with the same amount of respect as they would. Another question that I get often is, well, we have a safety personnel, we have a safety manager, whatever the position may be, do we still need a safety committee? Yes, absolutely. It's going back to the whole managers and field personnel. You could have your safety personnel running every aspect of the safety committee and be the only one there, but then you're missing out on a huge chunk of the workforce. Another important thing to remember while developing a safety committee is we want to be inclusive, not exclusive. We want it to be a group where people always feel like they can join if they have the desire to. We don't want to make it seem like it's the cool kids club and you can only get in here if you have XYZ contacts. So make sure that you're never making people feel left out from a safety committee. And lastly, another thing to keep in mind when we go through different types of employees that should be joining. I know that we have a lot of districts within the pool that have very high hazard jobs, we'll say like water and sanitation workers, firefighters, so on and so forth. When we talk about that, the question might come up as, well, do we just want to do frontline firefighters? Do we just want to do the people out there in the field digging up sewers? The answer is no. You would always be doing yourselves a disservice if you were to exclude somebody like an office worker. And the reason why I say that is because they are still exposed to hazards. Does the office worker have the chance of getting an ergonomic injury, of slip tripping or falling, or even walking out in the plant a few times? So we just want to make sure we're not excluding anybody, because each person you exclude is a different perspective that could help you down the line. Oops. There we go. So next, once we've talked about who we actually want to join the safety committee, we need to talk about what is our goal? What is our mission statement for the safety committee? What are we hoping to achieve? And this is very important because I would imagine that most of our districts do have some kind of mission statement, a set of values. First off, we want to make sure that our safety committee is not going to collide or clash with the goals of the actual district. We want to make sure they align. And if we give ourselves a mission statement of what we do, what we want to do, that's going to make it a lot easier to help achieve those goals. That's going to make it a lot easier to keep one of our 3 principles at the beginning of being active. we are actively working towards the goal to achieve our mission statement. And these don't have to be anything crazy. So what does your safety committee do? What's our mission statement? To promote the health and safety in our district. It could be as cut and dry as that. Why does your safety committee do what it does? It's really the entire reason, well, somebody like myself gets into the safety field to begin with, is we want to see our teammates go home at the end of the day. Everybody has people waiting on them at home, and that's what we want to make sure that we do. We also want to look further than just employee safety. We want to look at entire district health. And we're going to talk about, too, that risk management could be something that you task your safety committee with. But the whole idea is setting up that mission statement and aligning what you're going to be doing with those goals. Next, what core values are most important to your committee and district? Obviously, keep everybody safe. Provide your team with valuable resources. That's something I really want to spend some time with. As a safety committee member, leader, whatever you may be, one of your key roles is to provide the resource of safety knowledge, safety programs, safety trainings. I think that's one of the best things that a safety committee can do, is to increase the knowledge of the district as a whole with different safety processes. All right, moving on. So next, keep all that in mind. What are your goals? What do we want to achieve? There are so many different things that a safety committee can do. Do we want to encourage safety trainings, help build those out? Maybe you want to take a back seat to actual day-to-day safety and say, our safety committee is going to create a wellness program because we want to make sure that everybody is as healthy as they can be. And maybe you roll out something where you do a step program to make sure everybody hits 10,000 steps a day. That's something a safety committee can do. They can also look through incident investigations. They can solve safety concerns. I've seen safety committees, and what they do is they work on policy reviews. And by policy reviews, I mean they'll take the safety manual and they will review it to make sure that it lines up with what they're actually doing. I've talked to districts where they'll say, we have this safety program for a confined space, but we don't even have that space anymore. Why do we still have this? That could be something you can task your safety committee with doing. Also, with policy reviews, one thing I'm a huge fan of is safe operating procedures, basically writing out a way that each task is supposed to be done start to finish to ensure the safety of the teammates. And it's really just asking yourself what you want to accomplish and going back to the review and not becoming stagnant. Your goals and what you want to accomplish should be changing. Your goal in 2024 might not be the same as 2025 because maybe you accomplished that goal. Or maybe your team has enough of a well-rounded opinion of it to where you can add something else. So I guess in summary here, what I'm trying to say is always make sure that you're asking yourself, what are our goals? What do we want to accomplish? How does this align with our mission statement? Which, by the way, there is a sample mission statement attached in the file box, so please review that if your safety committee does not currently have a mission statement, or if you're just looking to update it, because that's something else we're happy to help you guys with too, is just seeing where you're at and what you want to be. So, next slide. Now we're going to talk about some of the duties and goals of the safety committee. And as I was saying before, I don't want us to get too caught up on doing every one of these. These are just some best things, some best practices that a safety committee can do to ensure that you're making a meaningful impact and that you're growing. So you can pick one or two of these, you can do all of these. That is completely up to you as a district. I just like to throw these out there and discuss it. So, reporting unsafe conditions, whether it's you as a safety committee reporting it, or if being a safety committee member, your team tells you of an unsafe condition. You just need to report it, and then we need to go back to the being active stage of make a corrective action. We've noted the unsafe condition. Now, what are we going to do about it? Maintain open meetings. This one is one that I don't think gets talked about enough. And it goes back to the principle of being inclusive in your safety committee. Even if somebody's not a member of the safety committee, you should be able to just come in and join a meeting if you have an idea, or just sit in and listen to it. Maybe you're considering joining the safety committee. It should never be something that's blocked off to everybody. Everybody should feel empowered and like they belong in a safety program. So I cannot stress the importance enough of an open meeting. And plus, you never know. Maybe you have one member of management on your team and they have some great insights, but they don't want to join because it's a closed meeting. Contribute ideas for improvements in safety. So when somebody comes up with an unsafe condition, you as a safety committee, you guys should be sitting around your table talking about, here's our issue. What do we do as the safety leadership in the district to help keep our team safe, to help protect the district from this issue? You should always be contributing those ideas. And possibly the most important is work safely and influence others to work safely. Going back to safety culture, you have to lead by example. Let's say you as a safety committee member are somebody who helps rewrite the policy, rewrite the safety manual. If you're making a rule and you're not following it, how could you ever expect anybody in your district to take you seriously? So be that influence, be that example, be the person that people are saying, well, I don't know what to do here, I should go to the safety committee member. You should be a resident safety expert for the things that you do in your area. Next is review incidents. I see a lot of safety committees do this, and it's great. And it goes back to the fact of, I've been a safety professional for years now, and I can review an incident A to Z. I have the training. I have done it more times than I can count. But when we include a safety committee with field personnel, with management, with people from different departments, and we're all reviewing the same incident together, you're going to get 10 different perspectives that I would have never came up with by myself. So that's why I think it's really vital for safety committees to review incidents, just because you're getting those different thought processes. And maybe it's a very cut and dry incident, but maybe the safety committee comes up with different solutions that you wouldn't have thought of when you were in. This one is another one that's really important. This, I wouldn't say so much is one of your cut and dry goals, like reduce incidents, stop slips, trips, and falls, develop a wellness program. This is part of that influencing others. You need to build enthusiasm for safety programs. And as a safety professional, let me tell you, that is one of the most challenging things to do. And this is going to go back to the be fun with it. But how do we build enthusiasm of a safety program? Are we going to go stand at the corner of our offices and read everybody the safety manual? No. You have to get creative with it. I'll give an example of what I had one of the safety committees that I was in charge of do in my early career. We were doing an update on PPE programs. So we made videos. We made hands-on videos, and we went out and we bought a bunch of little watermelons. And we would drop a brick on the watermelon without a hard hat. And then we'd put a hard hat on it, demonstrating the importance of wearing a hard hat. We also had a nail gun from our carpentry shop, and we would test no eye protection, reading glasses, non-safety rated sunglasses, and safety rated glasses. So what that done is it was something entertaining to watch. It built enthusiasm. People wanted to talk about it, but it also drove a point home. It showed them what happened to their noggins and their eyes if they weren't wearing the proper PPE. And next is support a consistent risk management program. Risk management can be something very useful for a safety committee. And I will get to this in a little more detail, but what they should be doing is they should be looking at more than just employee injuries, and they should say, what are the risks to our district? Whether they be tasked at by management or whether it just be them thinking internally. And they should be able to identify the risk facing the district, at least within their wheelhouse. I don't expect you to come in from a field position and be able to talk about the finances of the district, but you can talk about what your department, what you see the risk coming down the road as. So Again, that's going back towards we are doing this as a goal of being proactive rather than reactive. All right, so yes, we have more goals, responsibilities, and duties. So this is another really important. Inform, educate your team. So as a safety committee member, you should be taking it upon yourself to know the district safety policies, to know upcoming safety best practices, upcoming regulations, and help educate your team so that you guys make sure that you're at the cutting edge of safety. You can never look back and say, well, we didn't do that because we didn't know. You'll be able to say the safety committee figured this out, and we've reduced injuries by 50% by promoting this new safety idea. Again, promote and build that safety culture. You do that by being visible, by talking to the team, asking them what their safety concerns are, and then by leading by example, and also being active, helping them solve any safety concerns. Because that's one thing I'll say. I really love it when a safety committee is visible. You want to go out there and you want to know that person A is a member of safety committee. I have a safety concern. I'm going to go tell him. But that's also a lot of responsibility for a safety committee. Because if they have ideas brought to them by team members and that's not addressed, that's not forgotten about, that's not set as one of the actionable goals, that person's never going to bring a safety concern to them again anymore. And that's really going to deteriorate the safety culture because they'll say, they talk a big game, but they don't actually care about me. And that is the last thing we want to do as a safety committee. Another option, this one's not one I see often, but it's worth noting, is establishing an annual budget for the operations of the safety committee. Do you have a budget for the safety committee? Do you have funds that help you achieve a goal? Maybe that's reducing slips, trips, or falls, or correcting a very obvious hazard somewhere in the workplace. What's your budget and how are you going to utilize that? Next is creating those corrective actions, whether it be from an injury, whether it be from somebody bringing a safety concern to you. You have to create corrective actions. It doesn't always have to be, we're going to tear down this building and completely rebuild it with all the safety protocols in place. It could be something as simple as we're going to do training on this. We need to do training on watching where you walk. We need to do ladder training. But it's creating corrective actions and actually making sure that they're followed through with. Next, set objectives to accomplish. We've already covered this in many details, but it's so important to have those objectives. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit too, based on being visible. Participate in incident investigations. We discussed this as well. Relay employee recommendations. We covered that. And one of the last things, this goes back to being visible, to being leader. You want to be able to mentor your team, whether that be the entire district, your department, whatever it may be. But as a safety committee member, you're a mentor. So that means whenever you come up with a new safety policy, whenever you have an idea of what best practices are, you should be teaching new team members that. And here's something that's not done very often, but I highly recommend it. When you have a new hire, introduce them to the safety committee. Let them know what the safety committee does for them. So if they have any ideas, they'll bring it to the safety committee. And just have the safety committee walk them around so they can tell them about the best practices. They can tell them about what they've done. Because another way too, to grow your safety committee, to increase that buy-in, is to show the team the value of the safety committee. Show them what you've done. Be proud of protecting your district. All right, we just got one more slide of the duties, goals, and responsibility, and that's just because they are very important. So, take a leadership role in safety training. So, maybe as a safety committee member, you guys get extra safety training. Maybe you guys help coordinate internal safety trainings. But the thing is, if you're part of the safety committee and you're sitting there playing on your iPhone while a third party is giving a safety training, what do you think everybody else in the room is going to do? They're not going to care about that safety training. So make sure you're taking an active role, whether it be a topic, we'll say, on fall protection. And you know a fall protection trainer is coming, so you take an active role by encouraging everybody to bring your harnesses in case it comes up, or coordinating with the trainer to begin with, being like, hey, are there any hands-on activities? How can I be of help? Make yourself visible, make yourself active. And just saying what I said before, where have the safety committee members introduced and their roles explained during orientation. And more than anything else, guys, lead by example. Be the change that you want to see in the district. So, last question for the day. This will just be a simple yes, no, or yes, but needs some work. If you have a safety committee, is the safety committee meeting its stated goals? If you don't have any stated goals, that's okay. Need updated goals for 2025? No. And again, there's nothing wrong with noting this. I think one of the key things to do to start improving a safety committee is to do a pulse check and just see where you're at. And I'm going to talk about how we do that in a little bit further, but I am quite excited to keep going with you guys. So, next we are going to change gears a little bit. And we're going to talk about scheduling. As a safety committee, you have to make sure that you meet on a regular basis. And what that regular basis is like to you guys, that's completely district dependent. I have safety committees that meet once a week because they know that their district has some issues that they really need to sort out. We have districts that meet once a month. Once a month, I would say, is pretty much the standard. And we have districts that meet once a quarter. Because when they meet once a quarter, they talk for 2 hours and they cover a lot of information. And other than that, they have a lot of hats that they're wearing. All of those are acceptable, but what you need to do is you need to sit down as a safety committee or the people in charge of the safety committee and say, when do we want our safety committees to meet? One thing I want to note here, and this is one of the shortfalls that I'll be talking about later, is it's one of the biggest traps I see safety committees get into. They're like, yeah, we're going to meet monthly, but our busy time is during the summer. So during the summer, we're only going to meet quarterly. And I say we should be taking an opposite approach to that. Our busiest time is when we're going to see the most near misses. That's when we're going to see the most injury potential. That's when the safety committee is needed more than ever to go through and discuss what's happening in the district and how do we keep that. So yes, you can always adjust your schedule. Maybe you're a large district that has, maybe you're a district that has a large summer help presence where you go 5 times the number of employees during the summer. Then I think it would be acceptable to do a once-a-month meeting during the summer, during most of the year, but whenever you really slow down during the winter, maybe make it once a quarter. But basically what I'm saying is being too busy is never an excuse, because that's when accidents or incidents happen. So never let that fall by the wayside. Another thing we want to think about too is how long do we have members on the safety committee for? And again, there's no silver bullet here. Based on your district is how that's going to work. Let's say you're a district of 10 employees. You're probably going to have safety committee members indefinitely because you don't really have the option to rotate employees in and out. But if you have 50 employees, 100 employees, you can make it a 6-month term. You can make it an every 2-year term. You can make that designation. And don't be afraid to change things and say, wow, we've had safety committee members indefinitely and we've been meeting once a quarter for the last 3 years and we're stagnant. Can we change the schedule to make a difference? That could be an answer. So next is meeting structure. And I have some examples. Oops, sorry, I pressed the button too many times. No. I skipped ahead too many times. Sorry about that. Next is responsibilities. So there are some key responsibilities whenever you are a safety committee. So, of course, you have your normal members, but you can take your normal members and you can put them into designated positions. And being special districts, I like this because it already makes sense to you guys. So everybody has a board. we have a board president, you have a board secretary. Think about that with your safety committee. You want one person, whether it be a member of management, whether it be somebody you assign, whether it be somebody the rest of the safety committee votes in, you need to have a chairperson. You need to have a leader. You need to have somebody who takes the safety committee and they make sure that we're working towards our goals. And they help you guys make those checks to say, okay, in the last 3 months, we haven't done anything towards our goals. We need to change that. They need to be the person who sticks with or keeps on safety committee members to make sure that they're achieving goals, to make sure they're attending meetings. Next, extremely important, we'll talk about this more in 2 slides, the note taker. During a safety committee, you guys just shouldn't be chatting to chat. Everything you say should have a purpose. It should be written down. Again, we're creating goals. We're creating actionable things that we can do to help improve safety. So you want to have that note taker because those notes is going to be a way that you become more visible to the rest of the district. And of course, we have our members. What do our members do? They attend meetings. They're going to contribute ideas. They're going to research safety topics. If somebody comes up with a safety question, and I've talked to plenty of people on this webinar before about safety concerns in their districts, and I'll even tell you from somebody with a safety background, most safety concerns are not cut and dry. They require research. They require risk assessments and in-depth thought. That's what our members are going to do. And of course, complete assignments. All right, moving forward, we have the meeting structure. Think back again to how do our board meetings go? I want us to be that serious about our safety committees. Are we going to open them, do a roll call, make sure everybody's there? And if somebody's not there, what do we do? This is a best practice that I didn't write down, but I wish I would have. One of the best safety committee ideas that I've seen from one of our fellow districts is, first off, not everybody can make it to every safety committee meeting. I think that's a reasonable expectation. We all have other things going on, personal things come up in our lives. But what they did is they had representation from each department. And if you could not be there for the safety committee meeting, somebody else from your department went in your place. And I loved that because you're always getting that representation from the department and you're getting fresh ideas. You were taking what was potentially a negative for the safety committee and you turned it into a positive. So next, when we're thinking about the meeting structure, you should go through, is there any old business? What are the things we talked about last meeting? Let's look at the notes that our secretary wrote up and make sure we covered those. Any new business we want to talk about. And then you should always have something that's standard. Are you going to do trainings? So I really want to take a second to talk about trainings. It's so important. I mentioned a lot of things that a safety committee can do. You can help with incident investigations. You can help write policies. I'm not going to repeat all those again because I'm sure you guys are tired of hearing me ramble. But what I want you to think about there is those are a lot of detailed tasks. And if you as a safety committee, as leadership of the safety committee, are not training your safety committee members to give other trainings, to help do district walkthroughs, then they're not going to know how to do it and they're not going to do it effectively. And I think that that's a big benefit to being a safety committee member too if they're offering training, is because I think one of the best things we can give our team is knowledge. Empower people with knowledge. And if they're saying, well, one benefit of being on a safety committee is I learned this about the district, I learned this skill, you are giving them something that is really valuable. I'm actually trying to work with some third-party companies to develop partnerships so we can send our safety committee members through like an OSHA 10 hour, just so that they get more knowledge. Of course, we want to address safety concerns. And that's something else you should think about as a safety committee. How are we going to have safety concerns committed to us? Is there going to be an email address? Is there going to be a Dropbox? Is it going to be word of mouth? Any one of those is completely acceptable. You just have to know what it is and tell people about it. Are you going to review the incidents? Is there going to be a safety manual review? I think that's another great utilization of a safety committee, is to pick a section a month of a safety manual and have everybody read through and see what their thoughts are. And next is recognition. We do this at the CSD pool, where we recognize people who are going above and beyond in the safety field, in the health field or wellness field. And you recognize those people. They don't have to be safety committee members. It's actually better if they're not. It's really powerful if you can make a plaque or a dinner celebrating a safety hero in your district nominated by the safety committee. This dinner, this lunch is brought to you by the safety committee. And then it gives everybody else somebody to work for, and guess what? You're building excitement for safety. So next is meeting minutes. This is going back to being visible. We want to be visible, folks. So why keep minutes? Help hold people accountable. So one thing of those meetings, in those minutes should be, what is the safety committee doing? What are our corrective actions? What are our time frames? If you post that on a bulletin board, it holds you accountable. And it also makes it visible when you achieve a goal. And it's going to make it seem like you guys aren't shut off. And especially as we go forward and we want to start tackling larger projects as a safety committee, if you say, I need X amount of dollars just to management, they're probably going to laugh at you. But if you say, here are the resources we had, here's what we accomplished as a safety committee, if you give us this, we can accomplish this, that is a much different conversation. And whose responsibility is it to share share minutes with everybody? And how are you going to do it? Is there a bulletin board? Maybe you guys have department meetings once a week, and you can have supervisors read those off. But these are just things we need to think of as we are planting the seed of a safety committee, and watering it is how this is going to look like. But boy, meetings are so valuable, or minutes are so valuable, especially if you're one of those safety committees who change hands every year, every 6 months. Looking back on past meeting minutes is going to give you an idea of what's worked, what's not worked, and where you can have improvements. So next we have some best practices for a safety committee. I already touched on this. Allow additional safety training. Train your safety committee. I know safety committees that encourage their members to go do district walkarounds. They do walkthroughs of the facility. I do want to say this, and I've never seen this, but it's always good to mention. As a safety committee, you are not the police. You should be coming from a helpful angle. It should never be, put on your hard hats, you're going to get in trouble, I'm going to write you up. It should be a teaching moment. Hey, this is why you should put on your hard hat, because I care about you. I know your wife. I want you to go home. It's funny. Many of you know that we operate the skid truck, and every year we take the skid truck to the SDA conference. And this is another great example of building a safety culture. So it had been a long week. Michael and I, the skid truck driver, were putting up the skid truck. And we had to drive from one end of the parking lot where we took off the skids to the other end to go hook up the trailer. Michael jumps on the side of the truck and is hanging on. And I stop the truck immediately and I look at him and I say, listen, I like you way too much and I know your wife way too well to have a conversation saying that we did something stupid that got you hurt. Get in the passenger seat. That's how you should be approaching things as a safety committee. It should never be badgering somebody, but teaching them, explaining why it's important. So, develop site-specific training or campaigns. I really like the idea of campaigns. Maybe you have a slip, trip, and fall issue at your district. Maybe develop something where you ask the district for a $100 gift card, and then you encourage the rest of the district to come up with ideas to prevent slips, trips, and falls. The number one idea gets the $100 gift card, and it's sponsored by the safety committee. So that, again, that's making you visible. Get third-party participation. I'm not sure a lot of you know this, and I know some of you, I have actually joined in safety committees, but the CSD pool loss control team, we will come out, we will join safety committees. If you're new and don't have a safety committee, I will come to your site and I will help you build a safety committee from the ground up and even run your first couple meetings. And here's another idea that I really like. Talk to other safety committees, especially if you have other districts that you work closely with. They don't even have to be districts, just other entities that you work closely with. Talk to them about their safety committee. Tell them the successes that you've had, because that's how we build things, is we have to bounce ideas off each other. And when we talk to other people, when we get that third-party participation, we're bursting the bubble that we're in, where we're all in our own little world, and we're expanding it, and we're allowing different ideas to come in. All right, so some more best practices. So start small. I already mentioned this, but start with a small obtainable goal to build momentum. Let's say that you know that you have an icy spot in the parking lot, and your safety committee goal is to solve that icy spot in the parking lot. Maybe that's hiring somebody. Maybe that's buying ice. Whatever it may be, start small. But then what you do is you learn the team's strengths as you're starting small. And you're also building momentum because you accomplished that small goal, and now everybody feels good about themselves. They feel that the safety committee can actually accomplish goals. And you take that and you stair step, and then you work on a larger goal. And then once you work on the goal that's a little bit larger, then you go forward from there. And always ask. Ask people outside the organization what they're doing, how they stair step, and what their thoughts are on the district. So non-members, managers, stakeholders, that would be your board. Ask people what their thoughts are, because you never know. We say talking about board members. I noticed that one of you typed in that you have a board member on your safety committee. That could be a very great idea, because you never know what experience someone has unless you ask them. So again, always never be afraid to burst that bubble and expand forward. Now we're going to talk about some of the traps that safety committees fall into. So failure to articulate a purpose. We're just showing up and we're talking for an hour once a month. So yeah, sometimes we talk about things people brought up to us, but most of the time it's about the football game. Yeah, that's a stagnant safety committee, and that's not going to do anything. No goals or mission. If you don't have something to work towards, there's no reason to actually meet. So that's why we want to have goals, and we want to set timeframes for those goals. We want to have an agenda of what we hope to accomplish, and we're posting it on the bulletin board so we can be held accountable by management, so we can be held accountable by that person who brought a safety concern to us. No follow-up. That's going back to somebody brought an idea for us, and we forgot about it. That's not acceptable. You have to follow up, and you have to, even if it's not going to be the answer they like, they have to know that you as a safety committee took the time, you discussed it, and you came up with a solution, or you decided not to act. Even if it's not the answer they don't like, if they can read in the minutes that you took the time and cared enough about it to talk about that, then it'll follow through. Lack of participation. And I think this really comes from not making it fun. People just joining for their 6 months they have to and then leaving. Lack of management support. Maybe you have great ideas, but you're not getting the funding that you need. Or management's not even showing up. Assigning the wrong people to the safety committee. We briefly discussed that. We really want to vet members of the safety committee. I think it might be a good idea, if you're looking for new members of the safety committee, to do a couple trial meetings and see what they bring to the table and see how seriously they take it. And lastly, we already really talked about this, but we're too busy. We're canceling this month because we're too busy. That is a slippery slope to fall under. I can tell you guys, I visit a lot of districts, and I would say 50% of them had safety committee meetings that did not function from 2020 to 2022 because of COVID. And that's just completely unacceptable in the age of Zoom. If somebody can't make it to the meeting, see if they can Zoom call. See if somebody else can come in, but don't just start canceling meetings. Next, have fun with your safety committee. I talked about those videos that I made. That's one option. Sponsor a meal. See if you can get funding from the district to sponsor a pizza luncheon where the safety committee has a guest speaker come talk about safety. Do a safety day. I know we have some districts on here that do safety days. And make sure that the safety committee is sponsoring that. Make sure that they're working some of the booths, going around and talking to people, creating swag for your safety committee, handing out pins, handing out gift cards, whatever it may be. Offer prizes to employees for being safe. Now, I always want to say this cautiously. I would suggest safe ideas, not safe, because if we just say, well, this employee hasn't been injured in 3 years, they're getting a $100 gift card, that might encourage not reporting, and we never want to do that. Create games to promote safety. This is one I really love. If you have a fleet of vehicles, and let's say one of your safety committee goals is to increase vehicle inspections to promote safety, tell them that it's the safety committee's incentive for vehicle inspections and say, well, we're going to start hiding gift cards in different areas of the vehicle that you should be inspecting. And when somebody finds one, they're going to be excited. But if they don't, you as a safety committee will know where you hit the gift card, and you'll say, well, you missed out on that because you weren't properly doing your vehicle inspection. And that's another way to build enthusiasm for safety. And some tools at the CSD pool that are available to you. So we have the Safety and Loss Prevention Grant Fund. That can help fund some of these ideas or some of the corrective actions that you need to take. We also have Vector EHS, and this can be used to help report injuries, look at statistics. And one thing I really love it for is you can use it for near-miss reporting, because one thing as a safety committee is you should be encouraging near-miss reporting. And that's basically saying, hey, I was walking and almost got injured, but I didn't. That's great. Vector SDS, do you have safety data sheets inside your district? I'm sure everybody's got those 2-inch thick books. That could be something you can do as a safety committee, is switch that to a digital format that's more user-friendly to everybody. Next is Vector LMS, so the safety trainings. Maybe you want to help sponsor some safety trainings. You can look at Vector and have access to free trainings. And lastly is the loss control team. Myself at the CSD pool, we are happy to help you at any step of the way. Even if you are the best safety committee in the world, I still want to talk to you because I'm going to learn things from you to share with other districts. So never hesitate to reach out. They have also, as Alex mentioned, we have a sample best practices guide to help start up your safety committee, or just to do a check to see where you're at, because there's no right or wrong answers as long as it's fulfilling your goals. So in short, get it started today. It takes time to build a solid safety committee, so don't get patient. Start small. If things are getting stale, don't be afraid to switch it up. Give me a call. Make sure you're constantly doing new projects. You're stating new goals. And new committee members with new ideas, make sure you're changing them out as much as possible. And support your safety committee. Even if you're not a member of it and you're in management, stop by every couple meetings just to say, hey, I think you guys are doing great work. Keep it up. And I'm going to leave you guys with the 3 things we started with. Your safety committee needs to be visible. You need to lead by example. And you need to actively be working to accomplish goals. I'm going to turn it back over to Alex. I really appreciate you all for coming today.
All right. Thank you, Kyle. And thanks for everybody joining us today. We'll take time for questions real quick. If anybody has any regarding the safety committees, either what's going on at your place or, you want to start one up, you want to pick the brain of anybody else that's on the call, go ahead and just type that in now. I'll also point out that on the resources slide that Kyle mentioned here, these are a lot of membership benefits available to CSD pool members, and we are offering the first year at no cost for Vector EHS, the incident management software. There's a little bit of a setup period, so if anybody wants to get started on that or learn more, you can go ahead and click that link that we put in the chat box there. That's a tool that a couple of our members are currently using and finding good results for it. And then the Vector LMS, that learning management system, which is safety courses and online training, that is free to all CSD pool members. So if you're not sure if you're already signed up or using it or want to get logged in, you can send an email our way at info@csdpool.org. And then the safety and loss prevention grants as well can go to funding any purchases that you make for the safety committees. And it can also be used for any of the fees that come with the Vector programs that we offer at cost, although at a heavily subsidized rate. We partner with Vector and make sure that we waive any setup fees, and we offer discounts based on your line of coverage with us as well. All right, I don't see any questions coming through, so I think we will wrap it up a couple minutes early today. Kyle, I just want to thank you for putting this on today and being with us the last webinar of the year. So again, thanks again, Kyle.
Absolutely. Happy to be here, Alex.
All right, and keep an eye out on our website. We're going to be putting out a slate of 2025 webinars shortly. Should be kicking off the year in January. Got a couple of good ones coming our way, HR ones, cyber ones, so just keep your eyes out for us. Thanks to all our members and everybody else being here today, this morning for the webinar, and we will see you again next month. Thank you.